All right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. This week's installment is part 2 of our 4-part series that is called Foundational Integrity. Foundational Integrity. And this week being part 2, this week's title is The Integrity Code. Foundational Integrity, part 2, The Integrity Code. And what an interesting week. Last week was actually Attention Pays. And last week we talked about what it means to pay attention, and that when we pay attention to those things that give us a return of equal value, then what we pay attention to pays us back. If we pay attention to our body's health, our body begins to, that attention pays us back in a healthy body. If we pay attention to, mastering one of our artistic skills, like, breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, that skill mastery begins paying us back, whether it's in self-confidence, whether it's in exchange, whether it's in monetary, whether it's just as a form of self-expression, which, helps keep the mind clear. And this is the foundational ideas of hip hop. I took this chart that we'll see in a minute out. I just wanted to recap all this. There's a chart that went back from this man, Ian Zell-Lungold. He does a great series on the Mayan calendar. He passed back in 2005. So it's very interesting. I watched his videos. I caught on to him late 2009. So I absorbed all this knowledge that he was spitting, and then watched it happen 2010, 11, and 12, and kind of followed the path of the Mayan calendar back from there. So those of you who watch now, if you decide to invest 8 hours, there's 2 videos that he breaks down the Mayan calendar, that you'll be able to look back and see what he's talking about. You have the gift of hindsight. Professor Hindsight is 2020, right? So anyway, there was a piece that in his thing that he talks about, and I had written it down in, did I keep it in here? Yeah. I had written it down in a book here. I call it Knowledge, Insight, Zin Uru, and this is just a blank book that I just started writing in. I just take a lot of notes from different philosophies, different inspirational things, different spiritual teachings, all kinds of stuff. And I came across this right here, which I'll put up on the screen right now. And this, this is, he didn't have it. He does have a name for it. I didn't write it down here. But I gave this the name Foundational Integrity. And I really like what he did here. And I just wanted to use this kind of as a basis to build off of. We're talking about the cube. We're talking about building a foundation with the square, the integrity of the square. And, last week, part 1, we talked about attention. You could see attention. And this week, we're going to talk about integrity. Next week, we're going to talk about intention. And then our final number 4 is going to be intuition, and intuition is going to be really deep. I chose attention at first because each lesson builds on the next, just like the blocks do. And each lesson, each week, it gets more metaphysical. It gets deeper into our spiritual overstanding. It gets more personal, even. And as you can see here, inside the center, it says being. This is about the foundational integrity of our being. This is about knowing why we move. Are you hip to your hop? Are you intelligent movement? Are we being intelligent movement? So I put that down for a minute. And this square, now think about this too. Even the pyramids, the great pyramids, have 4 sides to them, okay? They come together at a top. Really, technically, they've got 8 sides because there's these little, you would see, if you see a pyramid or an obelisk, there's technically 8 sides, 4 mini sides, and then the 4 main sides. So, I got to grab my artwork that I said last week. I didn't bring it out of the garage. I will bring it next week. Anyways, that just reminds me because there's 8 sides to it, you'll see. But the base, the square, that's the foundational piece right there. This house is built on, a rectangle, which is from the square, and it's concrete, so it's thick. It's a cube, many cubes, but just expanded into a larger cube. When we have integrity, there's an integrity of character, and the integrity of our character is when we meet somebody, we say, yo, that dude has integrity. That man or that woman, they got integrity. It means that it doesn't just mean that somebody means what they say and says what they mean and does what they mean and says what they say. Because people can do evil shit. Honest people can do evil shit, right? Like they be telling us all the time. Evil people be telling people, like in the movies, right? Like they got, like the villain always tells his plans. He's being honest about his feelings. So it's beyond meaning what you say and saying what you mean. To have integrity, there's a morality that's put there. And we're going to read about integrity tonight, but it doesn't really, I was disappointed. I was disappointed when I looked and read the definition of integrity. I thought, wow, because it doesn't really get into the depth of what integrity means among human beings, for a human being to have integrity. And integrity, of course, is truth and doing what one says. Somebody says they're going to do something, they do it. Somebody says, yo, I'm going to do that for you, and then they do it. That's integrity. Somebody speaking truth is integrity. But there's a morality, there's an integrity to it of that there's a helpfulness to people who have integrity. Martin Luther King, we would say, is a man of integrity, right? Martin Luther King is a man of integrity. He actually died. He was murdered. He was crucified, He was for his integrity. Because he was warned countless times, yo, Martin, they call him up late at night, yo, Martin, I'm gonna burn your house down. Yo, Martin, and this is the Ku Klux Klan. This is like, this is agents working for the government. This is all kind of people coming at Martin, right? And they're threatening his life. Stop what you're saying. Stop what you're doing. And Martin, because of his integrity, his foundation is just getting stronger. The baritone in his voice, I have a dream. The integrity of his voice as he began to speak more and more. Listen to the power of his speech, of his spoken word as he grows in his integrity, as who he is and what he's saying is challenged. Boom, boom, Foundational integrity. The man had integrity, so much integrity that he's still honored to this day. Bruce Lee, integrity, right? Let's get to Bruce real quick. Physical integrity, stamina, the ability that, like, when you fall down, you don't break, That when the storms of life hit, you don't wither. When God's got you on your purpose and you got to go over there and do this and do that, you don't break down and get sick. You rise up and you get more healthy. Or if you do catch something, you have an immune system that has integrity and it brings you back to health, love, awareness, and wealth. See that 4 right there, the H law, health, love, awareness, and wealth? That's a foundational piece too. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about our character, the integrity of our character, which if deeper even, what I wanted to add to that is the integrity of our character gets into our divine performance, okay? Because that's why we're reading the divine performance again this week. We're going to be doing perform patience, and we'll link those up later. But the integrity of our character comes with the integrity of our expression. See, when somebody sees somebody, and this, if somebody's out there has some form of depression or some kind of thing, we know that people judge us by how we present ourselves, whether it's fair or not, okay? Whether it's fair or not. And so when we're coming to a community, when we feel good, when we are on our discipline, when we go forward in front of our community with integrity, there's a positive, there's an optimistic view. There's a I can do it. I got it like that. I am hip to my hop. I am hip hop. Even if we're struggling, okay? The integrity of character pushes past and through the struggle and comes through with the enlightenment, with the empowerment, with the focus, with the strength, with the integrity. One's artistic expression, integrity. Bruce Lee is remembered because his artistic expression as a martial artist has integrity to it. His philosophy specifically has integrity. His philosophy, the Daoji Kundo, still stands the test of time. He was saying, there's no one way, there's no one martial arts that's supreme and better than all the other martial arts. We can take pieces from jiu-jitsu and kung fu, and we can take pieces from karate, and we can take pieces from judo, and we can take pieces from sambo and capoeira, and we could take these pieces and move them in, and what pieces fit for one's body may not be the same pieces that fit for another body, right? And you'll see, like, I don't watch it no more, like the MMA, the UFC, it's so violent, okay? It's so violent. But in a self-defense situation, like these MMA dudes, like they've shown what traditional Western boxing can do to old school karate stances, okay? But the karate has shown what a quick swift kick can do up under the chin as well. Like they're showing each other strengths and weaknesses. And so what Bruce Lee's philosophy was, take all those pieces and then work them into your own philosophy. This is hip hop. This is being aware, this is being hip to one's hop, knowing what one's movement is. This is the integrity of that. Because you're going to come across philosophies in life. You're going to come across inspiration, divine inspiration from God in your environment in mundane things. And see those mundane things, be inspired by them, and sit there and build off of, these pieces. You say, I would like to study peace. And so you study, what does Bruce Lee say about peace? What does Martin Luther King say about peace? Bruce Lee they're talking about peace, but from very different perspectives. But Bruce Lee is a man of peace. Martin Luther King is a man of peace. They're both fighters. They're both warriors. But if we're going to study peace, we're going to get pieces from both of them, and then maybe go over to the blast master, the teacher, and get peace from the gospel of hip hop. And then our family, our mom taught us about peace, or our dad taught us about peace, or the cat taught us about peace, or the nature teaches us about peace. So we take these pieces of peace, and we have this construct of our perspective of what peace is. But our perspective is our peace, P-I-E-C-E, our peace, like our foundational peace, that integrity piece, that integral piece. It's our overstanding. So last week we were like, what we pay attention to. Last week was attention pays. What do we pay attention to? If we watch dramatic movies all the time, we're inviting more drama, stupid movies all the time. We invite more stupidity into our lives. If we're paying attention to our growth or to the mastery of our element or whatever that is, then it's going to pay us back. And we read from Perform Study last week. And last week during the Perform Study, we were like, there was an assignment, right? And I don't know how many people did the assignment, but I did the assignment since I'm saying that I got to do the assignment, right? But the assignment was meditate every day for 9 minutes, but really 18 minutes. Meditate for 18 minutes every day, sitting in meditation. Go to 144 in the Gospel of Hip Hop, build your altar, sit in meditation for 18 minutes a day on a word or on a phrase or on a subject or a quote, an inspirational quote or a affirmation, meditating on that for 7 days, okay? Writing it down on a piece of paper, handwritten on a piece of paper. And then having that as part of our meditation while we're out and about just doing things. We're going to work, we're shopping, we're, playing with the kids, we're mowing the lawn, we're writing, we're working on our raps, we're having conversations with people about what it is. Like if the word was peace, what's your idea of peace? What's peace mean to you? That was one of the examples last week. And so I hope you all did that. I hope those of you who did that, I want you to take that piece of paper now and just fold it up and slide it in your gospel of hip hop, or slide it somewhere where you can look at it in the future. But take that piece now and fold it up after you watch this, because you're going to write a new one this week. There's a new part 2 this week. We'll get to that at the end. But fold that piece of paper up, and you can return to this later, because what happens now is that you've put the prayer and the intention, which is next week's lesson. You've put the prayer and the intention. You've paid attention, okay, with something that will pay you back, because attention pays. And you paid attention now for a week. Now you're going to put that there. It's going to leave the mind now, and it's going to enter into the spirit. This is the so-called law of attraction, but really this is the way God works. Like, you put that intention, but you paid attention to, we put that out, and now it's going to come back to us. It's going to come back to us. We're going to start seeing it reflected in our environment. It's going to come through us. It's going to come through us, and we're going to see it reflected in our environment. Okay? Because it's left the conscious attention, and it's going into the unconscious, the subconscious, what really is the unconscious, is going into the great event, the environment. It's going to go out here, and it's going to start reflecting back to us what it is that we meditated on for 7 days. And so foundational integrity begins when we learn how to focus on things in our lives that will empower us and give us some structural integrity. The integrity of the building. The structure of the building is built with certain integrity. And flexibility, okay? Oh, please. Flexibility is part of integrity. I was talking about integrity last night, blocks and stiffness. But also think like there's certain buildings that this style goes way back to like ancient Japan and China, and that when there's earthquakes, buildings are meant to shift. So it's a solid building that you can walk around and it stays, but when the earthquake comes, there's certain points built into the integrity of the building that allows it to be flexible. We talked about the integrity of a tree and the flexibility of a tree when the wind is blowing, A palm tree in the wind will look like it's going down to its side. It's like, whoo, and then bounce right back up the next day. That's its integrity, the woo, boing. That's its integrity. See, the flexibility is also a form of integrity. It is integrity. Oak tree. Oak tree is a very solid tree. I say oak tree because there's a big oak tree in our backyard. There's an oak tree, a big solid tree. You can pull on an oak branch. It doesn't barely move, if it moves at all. Especially the thicker ones, they don't move at all. But when the wind blows, there's integrity built into that. You can see the wind whipping through that oak tree, and it moves like this. That same wind would have a palm tree laying on its side, but here the oak tree is moving, but there's still a movement, its roots, there's a flexibility in it. So be flexible, Hey, let's go back to Bruce Lee talking about flexibility. He talks about stretching every day. And I don't know that I've ever even mentioned this, which is a shame. Stretching is the greatest thing. Stretching, finding a stretching exercise. Just stretching every day keeps the body feeling younger, keeps the body more limber, gives the body more structural integrity, right? The flexibility of stretching, being more flexible. Because when our body is more flexible, our mind is more flexible. Truly, the body is a reflection of the mind, but the mind, it's they're a mirror, they're a symbiotic relationship, they're one and the same. They're just different perspectives of the same expression. So if the body is flexible, the mind is flexible, a rigid body, a rigid mind. We talk about this also when I want to say it's in the Gospel of Hip Hop and the Definitions, the second overstanding, the definitions. We talk about street fashion and that loose-fitting clothing, okay, loose-fitting clothing correlates to a more flexible attitude, an ability to go with the flow, more flowing clothing. Loose-fitting clothing is flowing. There's more movement in loose-fitting clothing, okay? Teacher talks about this in the science of rap as well. Boom, get the science of rap if you can. It's also, if you get ruminations, boom, it's in the back of ruminations. Science of rap is. But he talks about how an MC, you know, when you got flowing clothing, you look more dynamic on stage, you know? Like if you see a rapper up there with tight clothes on, it looks so stiff, and that's why nobody's feeling him. You know, that's why nobody's gonna feel him. You look at, look at Michael Jackson when he had that, he knew about loose-fitting clothing. You know, that shirt would be flying. Loose-fitting clothing, though, there's a freedom to it. And you notice that for years now, I can't believe how insanely long the tight, it's conspiracy. The tight-fitting pants is to restrict blood flow. The tight-fitting pants is to restrict the flow of thought and the flow of energy. You know, it looks so silly. These dudes, these famous celebrities that have these tight-fitting suits on. It makes me laugh every time. Like, I feel sorry for them because they're just so restrictive in their thought and in their movement. There's so many things they're not allowed to do because the tightness of their clothing is a reflection of the tightness of their mind, not having the freedom of thought, the flexibility, the flow, like water. Be like water, my friend. This is like water, okay? Water's never tight. Water is never tight over anything. Water is always flowing. Our body is made of water, you know? That's why when we have loose-fitting clothing, our body is more flexible. We can move around better with loose-fitting clothing. All of this to say is part of our foundational integrity is not to be so rigid that we snap or that we break. But even a rock, okay? Even like, don't build your house on the foundation of the sand, build it upon the rock. The wise man builds his house upon the solid rock foundation from Jesus' teachings. And the foolish man builds his house upon the sand. That rock moves and flexes. We don't see it, just kind of like the oak tree, but a little more dense. But that rock is sitting in dirt and mud and other rocks and on top of other rocks, that there's a shifting in it. They can move with the earth, okay? So we want to have movement. This is intelligent what? Movement. So when we're talking about foundational integrity and we're putting it as hip hop, being hip to our hop, make sure that there's flexibility and not such rigid thinking of, I have to do it this way. It has to be one way. I have to see this here. I have to hear God here. I have to have this. It becomes obsessive compulsive, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, the rigid thinking. Because what happens with rigid thinking is we focus too much on the way we think things should be, and we're limited not only to our own imagination, our own limited thinking, our own limited resources, as opposed to, as really, not opposed, but as in alignment. Really, our alignment comes from the limitlessness of God. So when we're rigid and we're tight and we're looking at just, that has to be this way, or we're thinking about something, we get real rigid and tight. And then all of this, and watch, this happens to people as they get older. Why do people get older and rigid as they get older? Because their thinking gets more rigid and tighter. That's why as I'm getting older, I'm getting more loose. And anyway, the rigid thinking coming up in here, and it cuts off. It cuts off like all this inspiration, and where all these other visions could be coming from. God could be like, yo, here's what you need to see. No, I will only see it here. That's too much rigidity. That's going to snap. That's going to break eventually. Being able to go with the flow and move and be like, okay, I'm focused. I have my intention set. I have my trajectory. So I'm going to go there, but I see where God's going now. Okay, this is where God wants me now. Okay, thank you, God. Wow, God, wow, that's amazing, God, thank you. There's a focus there, but we have to go with the flow, follow life's outcome willingly, following God's intention willingly. When we resist God, wow. I mean, we get the world. The whole world is resisting God right now. But what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we actually doing here? Let's put up integrity right now. I feel it's a good time that point was made. And this, of course, is from the American Heritage Dictionary, 2nd edition. Let me go ahead. You know what? This is called the Integrity Code. I've been talking about integrity, but we're also going to talk about code, the Integrity Code, because a code, as you will see, actually adds some depth to this definition of integrity. And this is the American Heritage Dictionary, 3rd edition. Okay, so we'll look at this word integrity first, but this is called the Integrity Code, and we'll look at the code, and we'll talk about the code after we read these definitions. Integrity, definition number 1, steadfast adherence to a strict moral or ethical code. So that's why we're going to talk about the Integrity Code. That's where the title came from. Integrity, steadfast adherence to a strict moral or ethical code. See, now this is where the focus and the strict adherence comes to. This is where the power of the foundation, this is where what would be called rigidity, but this is the power of the foundation of, say, something like the divine performance. Given a divine performance is a strict adherence to a strict moral or ethical code. The divine performance is a strict moral and ethical code. The flexibility comes with perform patience with people. You have to be flexible with people. We can't just because we live by a strict ethical code doesn't mean we can force that on other people. That's when it becomes rigid. See, synonymous at honesty. See, integrity is honesty. We talked about that earlier, but this is what I'm saying. Evil people can be honest. That doesn't mean they have integrity. Definition number 2, the state of being unimpaired, soundness. I really like this definition of integrity. The state of being unimpaired, soundness. Being of sound mind, being of sound body, being of sound spirit, sound thought. The sound of God. Definition number 3. The quality or condition of being whole or undivided, completeness. This is what we mean. We talk about the wholeness. We talk about the completeness. This is my favorite of these definitions of integrity. See, it gets deep here, but it doesn't address the character of integrity. Okay? Because there's a certain character that comes with a man or a woman of integrity. Bruce Lee, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, men of integrity, you see. But this definition right here, the quality or condition of being whole or undivided, completeness, that's oneness. Integrity is oneness. Integrity is wholeness. Being one's whole self. Not the false self, but the whole self. Middle English, integrite, from Old French, from Latin integritas, which means soundness, from integer, whole, complete. integrity, soundness, whole and complete. So we are talking about the one code. Integrity, the integrity code. We're talking about the code of the wholeness, the code of the one. Here we go, code. Code, definition number 1, a systematically arranged and comprehensive collection of laws. Now, I would say, we could say, oh, that's the penal code, California Penal Code or Texas Penal Code states, all of that. But let's take this out of the realm of man-made laws, and let's take this into code, a systematically arranged and comprehensive collection of universal law. H-law even. Universal law governs all of creation. And what happens is when man-made laws contradict universal laws, man-made laws don't have the integrity. Universal law, the wholeness, the oneness is the integrity. It never can be broken. It will always be. It's the crystalline structure is integrity. You can look at a crystal, a big crystal with a microscope, and it has a foundational integrity. It has a code within it. It has a structural integrity code that you can smash it down to a dust and look at it with an even more powerful microscope, and it still has that same foundational structure, that same mathematical foundational code, that sacred geometry code, that geometric code within it, that same perfect soundness and structure. My nobility, that is what we are. There is a code within us that gives life to our integrity. Our integrity is encoded within us. Why? Because integrity means wholeness. Integrity means oneness. It's the wholeness, it's the oneness that is already with us. We talk about this every week. Every week. Definition number 2 of code. A systematic collection of regulations and rules of procedure or conduct. Now they're using that as like a traffic code, but since we can use our hip-hop site to transform subjects and objects, we're going to transform this subject right now. A systematic collection of regulations and rules of procedure or conduct. Now, there are rules to this game. Say, once again, I think, we'll use the H law as a foundational code in law, but we'll also use the divine performance, like a systematic collection of regulations and rules and procedures of conduct. That's the divine performance right there. It's a code. It even talks about how they're not all to be lived as each one as an individual. It's the divine performance to live all 18 out of them simultaneously all the time. And then what that does is it starts shifting the internal and the external environment into hip-hopia. Definition number 3A. The whole gospel of hip-hop is a code, by the way. Definition number 3A. A system of signals used to represent letters or numbers in transmitting messages. MCs have a code. Lyrics have a code. A system of signals used to represent letters or numbers in transmitting messages. The word is a code. The written word is also a code. These letters are a code. Three B, a system of symbols, letters, or words given certain arbitrary meanings. I like how they said arbitrary meanings, used for transmitting messages requiring secrecy or brevity. That's code. That would be like Morse code. Boop, doop, 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 doop. Like boop, 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 boop. People who know Morse code, they can send quick messages across, great distances back in the day. And so the messages would be broken down. I think it's called a stenographer, but in court, the little lady or man who sits there with that little keyboard that they type into. And they're taking notes, but they're abbreviated words. It's like a coded word. Or there could be a code where messages have to be sent across enemy lines and get to our people on the other side. And so they send a coded message, and then somebody who receives that code has to know the coded message on the other side. There's a book that says that the entire Torah is called the Bible code, that just the Torah, the portion of the Bible called the Torah, the Jewish Torah, is or the Hebrew Torah, more accurately, is a code, a Bible code that they say all of history is written within. But they're only looking at it two-dimensionally. I think if they build a three-dimensional cube structure out of it, then and there might even be a missing letter, is what some people hypothesize is why the code has not been cracked, because there's a letter that's been missing. That's deep. You can study that on your own time, but just throwing it out there, there's a book called the Bible Code. Coded language, I would say that when we talk about street language, that's coded language. Even by definition, it's the code of the streets. So if, just even a word like, yo, that's fresh. Like, what's good, my G? These are coded languages where other people who speak English don't necessarily speak hip hop, and hip hop transcends a lot of people that I've come across, hip hoppers, who've learned English, but they learn most of their English by listening to rap music from the United States. And so shout out to my Nigerian brothers out there. They speak more in hip hop than they do in so-called the Queen's English or American English even. They speak in hip hop. They speak in coded language. They speak in the language of the streets. Even though it's English, technically it's not English. It's street language. Ebonics, they called it for a while there. It's Big L, dopest track. Listen to Big L's Ebonics. That's code. That's coded language. If somebody says a ratchet, in the hood, everybody in the hood knows what a ratchet is. But, if you say a ratchet, most people are going to think it's a tool, think it's a handheld tool. You say my whip, these are more popular terms now, but, get the heater, it's the biscuit, we could go on for hours with that. But yeah, that was definition 3B, a system of symbols, letters, or words given certain arbitrary meanings used for transmitting messages requiring secrecy and brevity. That's why we have to get more into street language as this grows, because more and more of words are being censored now. Ideas and thoughts are being censored, so we have to speak in certain codes so we can keep the truth going. Definition number 4, a system of symbols and rules used to represent instructions to a computer. Yep, that's computer code. Now look at this. Right next to computer code, genetics, the genetic code. Now, what are they messing with right now in 2022? They're messing with the human genome. They're messing with it through computer coded language. They're trying to usurp the genetic code with a computer code that is a hybrid genetic computer abomination. For real. Definition number 6, slang, a patient whose heart has stopped beating, as in cardiac arrest. Code, I have no idea what that means. Slang, I know slang is a code. To systemize and arrange laws and regulations into a code, that's kind of repeating what was top there. To convert a message, for example, into code. We talked about that already. Genetics, to specify the genetic code for an amino acid or a polypeptide. Woo! Yeah, the genetic code, the human genome code. Oh boy, what havoc have they wreaked upon humanity? The future knows. Slang, to go into cardiac arrest, is code. Middle English from Old French from Latin codex, which is a book. Wow. Okay, see, I wish I would have read that earlier, because then we get into, if a code is a book, we got to really look into what does the word book mean? Because we think it means one thing, but how deep, and that's going to have to be brought up into the Oxford English Dictionary. What book means, because code is book. So we're looking at codes, right? This code, like there's a computer code. This is a digital camera capturing color, sound, movement, all kind of stuff. It's capturing it all into digital code, into a digital codex. And then it's putting it onto the little memory card. And then I'll be putting that memory card into my computer, and then the computer is going to read that code and bring it up as this, what's being, seen here on camera. And then I'm going to edit that, and I'm going to put it up. I'm going to take that code and code it into the YouTube algorithm, and then that YouTube's going to code that into YouTube, and then it's going to be decoded from your screen that you're looking at this through. But really, what it is, it's me sitting here across time and space. What you can really feel, and I can really feel you. Welcome everybody here, by the way. We got deep quick. I want to thank you all for being here. From my heart to yours, warm-hearted appreciation, warm-hearted acknowledgement of gratitude, of forgiveness, of love, of peace, of joy, warm-heartedness. Thank you for being here, for real, because across all time and space, there's a code that is coming through my voice, but there's coded language within there that you could feel, because I'm actually putting this out into the bigger morphogenetic field, so you're feeling it beyond just the screen. And I'm feeling you beyond the screen, because I'm tapped into this code, the crystalline morphogenetic, the rainbow code. The crystal rainbow code is really what it is. So I'm putting that out there, but somehow all my movement, all my words, all my sound, all my energy, if there was an aura camera here, it'd be all reading all other kind of stuff, is being coded through here and coming out to you the other end, and is speaking to your code, is speaking to your internal organic code as well. And isn't this amazing that the integrity code? Now, as we're reading that, they're saying integrity is the wholeness. Integrity is oneness. So when we get into our center, into our wholeness, into our oneness, at one mint, atonement at one mint, right? When we spiritually atone and become attunement at one mint with God, attunement through atonement. Oh, I got to write that down. Do I got a pen out here? Okay, well, I'll write it down when I edit. Attunement through atonement. Yes, that's a future message. Attunement through atonement. But when we sit there and we attone ourselves into that oneness, when we surrender to God and allow God to start working us, and then we work with God. Oh, what? That's the code of life. That's integrity. That's knowing when to be flexible, when to be more rigid, flowing like water. But water can break the most rigid rock. Over time, water just keeps hitting a rock, bam. Sooner or later, that rock is going to move from the water. That's what be water, my friend, means. Bruce is saying that when you move with water, the force of the water is harder than the force of a rock, okay? So in that movement, in that wholeness, there's flexibility. There's rigidity, if we want to call it that. There's give and there's receive. There's in and out. This is the infinite. I was thinking hip hop is infinite. The I-O is infinite. Hip and hop. Hip and hop is like, I don't know, compare the two. Yin and yang could be called hip and hop. Like, I just had that idea. I was like, wow, hip and hop. Yin and yang, hip and hop. That there's this eternal movement between hip and hop, this infinite movement of intelligent movement. Because it's about the integrity of preservation. Hip hop preserves itself. Intelligent movement preserves itself through its very intelligent movement. Intelligent decisions lead to a longer life. It leads to self-preservation. Intelligent decisions lead to community, lead to nation building, lead to, what hip-hopia can truly be. You see? Intelligent movement is integrity. It's infinite. So integrity is infinite. Why? Because the wholeness is infinite. Integrity is the wholeness. And the wholeness, the oneness, the great event is integrity. It's forever. It's forever and ever and ever and ever. We will be here forever, forever and ever, forever and ever and ever and ever. We will be here forever. Do you hear me? We will be here forever. Why? Because we're intelligent movement. We're moving in that way. We make intelligent decisions. We're springing forth, intelligent movement springing forth. That's the inspiration of spirit coming through us. That's integrity. It's the same thing. H-I, holy integrated, holy integrity, holistic, holistic, wholeness. But we were talking about W-H-O-L, but it's the same word. Holy, integrated, integrity. To be integrated into the hip hop, that's integrity right there. To have integrity with our character, to have integrity with our divine performance. And to have this foundational integrity, we pay attention to ourselves. Part one was attention pays. We pay attention to ourselves. You want to have integrity? Pay attention to like the divine performance. Say, perform forgiveness. A man or woman of integrity forgives, has a forgiving heart for themselves and for the other person too. God willing. That builds integrity. The performance of forgiveness builds integrity inside of a man or a woman. Why? Because these are divine laws. These are the fruit of the Spirit. These are the gifts of God. Forgiveness is a gift from God. Not only God forgiving us, but us forgiving others. Why? Because when we hold on to resentment, when we hold on to regret, when we hold on to anger, when we hold on to bitterness, when we hold on to jealousy, when we hold on to hatred, when we hold on to all those things, it starts tearing us up inside. It starts making us have cancers and all kinds of disease. All up in the gut, feeling all the time. So we forgive. Forgiveness from the good. Gut level forgiveness. There's another title. Gut level forgiveness. Right? Man, that's a nice one. Gut level forgiveness. I'm going to write both those down. You'll see in the future. Gut level forgiveness. It's like where you just feel that person's forgiven. You just know it. Not saying that they're allowed to do, if they did you harm, keep a safe distance, but still forgive them. And if you can't forgive, be willing to forgive. Your integrity will grow. If you're willing to forgive and say, God, I'm willing to forgive this person. I don't know how, but I'm willing to forgive this person. God will show you how. God will teach you how. God always is teaching us how. That's the wholeness and oneness of God. We're just part of this great event. Sometimes we tune out of that great event, but we pull ourselves back in. As a matter of fact, that was, I wanted to share that with you. This book right here, The Secret of the Golden Flower, there was just two quick paragraphs in here. I'm going to read. I'll put them up here on the screen. Right at the beginning of this, this book is very deep. I don't know about ever. Just if you get it, you'll see. The Secret of the Golden Flower. I read this book many years ago, and it came back into my life. I think I mentioned it on the last message from the Minista. But this was my meditation for this week. And this is foundational integrity. And this is just deep. I don't know who's going to catch this or what, but this is for my own sake too, just for my own historical documentation. This is what I meditated on this week. And this is from a chapter, let's see, what is this chapter called? The Original Spirit and the Conscious Spirit. The original spirit and the conscious spirit. In paragraph 5 here, it says, the conscious mind is like a violent general of a strong fiefdom, controlling things from a distance until the sword is turned around. Paragraph 6. Now steadily keep to the chamber of the origin, turning the light around to look back. And this is like having a heroic leader on top with great ministers helping. Once the inner government is orderly, the strong and violent naturally become tame. See, the strong and violent person within each of us naturally becomes tame when we turn the light around. And if you get The Secret of the Golden Flower, if you pick up this book, get the Thomas Cleary translation. Anytime you see something by Thomas Cleary, great translator from Taoism and Zen, really has an understanding of the language. There's other great translators too now that have come along. He's kind of the original in the English. He captures the spirit. Thomas Cleary. Turning the light around. Okay, so as I was meditating this week, I want to bring this here. It's being hip to our hop. It's saying, you know what? I am hip hop. I am intelligent movement. I'm not what the outer tells me I am. I am who I am. I am that I am. Okay? And then God can start revealing to us who and what we are. We start uncovering the veil. We start seeing through a new sight, through a new eye. And when we're sitting there looking at the world, always judging the world, always at war with the world, always it's like it said, the conscious mind is like a violent general of a strong fiefdom. But then once the sword is turned around and when we look within, we turn that light around. I had an affirmation come this week. I was like, turn the light around. Yo, we turn the light around. Turn the light around. We turn the light around. Turn the light around. We turn the light around. And it just kept, turn the light around. Turn the light around. It just kept singing through my head this week as a reminder to go within, to look within, to feel within, to know what the truth is within us. That's that wholeness. That's that stillness. That's that integrity. The light is the integrity. Why? Because we're made of light. We are made of light. The light is our wholeness. The light of God is our integrity. There's so much more to us than we give ourselves credit for. Because why? The world out there wants us to be violent little generals in our head, always marching to orders, always going to war with that idea or that idea or that person or that person. And I'm not saying there's not going to be real battles that we face in life. I'm not saying that. But if you're going to fight battles in your life, if you're going to overcome, if you're going to have strong foundational integrity, you have to know where you're coming from and why you're there. That's being hip to one's hop. That's intelligent movement. That's intelligent movement springing forward from spirit, the wholeness of spirit, the wholeness of God. Why else would we want to live another way? And the more we live from that space, the more we live from this space where we say, you know what, instead of a violent general always, my mind always, with my environment, with my environment. No, let me turn the light around, boom, turn the sword around, back onto myself. And then all of a sudden, you turn the light around onto the inner city, the street light comes on in the inner city. And all of a sudden, you're a hero within the inner city. And within the inner city now, that hero has all these ministers that go around and can minister to the guts and to the stomach and say, oh, you know what? Your stomach is holding anger at somebody. It hasn't had forgiveness, and that's why it's upset. People will be going to the doctors and be getting all kind of pills and going to the pharmacy down the road and getting all kind of pills. Oh, my stomach hurts. Trying all kind of stuff to fix the stomach. When at the end of the day, sometimes all the stomach is doing is holding in resentment that needs to be forgiven. Or the lower back has something to forgive. Or the lungs have some forgiveness or are holding in grief that's got to be transmuted into joy. Or transmuted at least into truth. And then the joy will be found. The body's ailments are not chemical most of the time. The body's ailments are thoughts. They're diseased of the thoughts. They're constricted thoughts. And then they come out in other kind of pain. Resentment causes all kind of havoc in the body. Unforgiveness causes all kind of havoc in the body. Hatred causes all kind of wreckage in the body. So when we're always looking out with that little angry general, we're causing all kind of havoc in our body. But when we look within and we become the hero within, and all of a sudden now we have all these ministers going around and they're ministering to the body, All of a sudden we have more integrity. Why? Because our stomach feels better, our digestion gets better, our heart beats better, our lungs breathe deeper, our blood moves better. We're more encouraged, we're more inspired to take care of our body, to get into our movement of our physical body and our spiritual body and our mind. We have more integrity. We have that flexibility of integrity, but we also have that firm foundation that is the integrity, which is everything. Everything is our foundation. Like, yo, that's deep. All of this is our foundation. It's all of it, I am. All right, let's read from the Gospel of Hip Hop. Last week we performed study with what we pay attention to. That's what we're studying. And then we had for those of you who participated, we had a full week where we just studied a word. We meditated on a word. We paid attention to a word that will pay us back. You know, attention pays. What we pay attention to, attention pays. And so this week, I thought perform patience, as you could see, is already up here from the Divine Performance. I thought this would be a good one for patience with integrity. I'm going to show you how this fits in while we go along. Why would we choose integrity? Study for what we pay attention to. That makes a lot of sense. But how is patience part of our integrity? You know, how is patience part of our integrity? Well, watch, I'll show you. Or patience will show you. Oh, and of course, this is in the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by the teacher KRS-One and presented to the Temple of Hip Hop. This is his urban inspirational metaphysical masterpiece. This is his philosophy, his I Am Hip Hop philosophy, his the Temple of Hip Hop philosophy, and I am an a recognized intellectual and spiritual contributor of the Gospel of Hip Hop. And we are in the third overstanding, the Divine Performance. This is Divine Performance number 6, Perform Patience. And you can find that on page 165. Page 165. Divine Performance 6, Perform Patience. Practice expressing calm endurance. See, right there, endurance. Endurance is integrity. Things that are built with integrity endure the storm. Right there. Patience expressing calm endurance, silent strength, integrity is strength, and inner resolve. That's integrity as well. These lead to patience. See, integrity leads to patience. Be tolerant of others and their views, and always be willing to wait. Whatever is yours by divine right. Within the spiritual life, there is very little need to rush or to be anxious. Simply ask and then wait in an expectant manner. Usually, what you do not receive is for your own good. Here, patience is the ability to be still and allow opportunity to fall into your lap. Do not run after opportunity, only position yourself to receive opportunities. Usually, it is the righteous that remains still throughout the changes of the world in a strategic position, so that when the world unexpectedly changes again, opportunity falls into their laps. Think about this, what we're talking about when we're talking about integrity, okay? The integrity code. Patience is part of the code. When you understand the patience, I call patience the governor. Become the governor or mayor of your own inner city. Patience is like the hero of the inner city because it takes time. Things take time, and we're being willing to wait. And this is also, if you see this, patience has flexibility built into it while still remaining still, while being still. Not being in a rush, not having to have it on our timing, but on God's timing. Usually it is the righteous that remains still through the changes of the world in a strategic position, so that when the world unexpectedly changes, again, opportunity falls into their laps. Righteous man is a man of integrity. Martin Luther King is a righteous man because he's a man of integrity. Paragraph 2, remember that opportunity is not to be chased down, it is to be searched for. Opportunity is not to be hunted, it is granted. It is not taken, it is received. Hip hoppers are encouraged to find strength, integrity in the things they already have. See this? What do you already have? Everything you have is with you now. Why? Because God is all we need. God is with us now. God is the wholeness. God is the oneness. This is integrity is with us already. Be patient with them. Oh, wait. Hip hoppers are encouraged to find strength in the things they already have. Be patient even with ignorant and selfish people. Be patient with them as well as with yourself, and prepare for the fall of the ignorant. It is inevitable. There's a lot of ignorance in the world right now, my nobility, and they are going to fall. Be prepared. It's inevitable. They're going to fall. How prepared are you? Are you really prepared for the days to come when the ignorant fall? This is where integrity comes in. Yeah, when you got integrity, you are prepared. Sometimes the fall of the ignorant, this is important right here. Sometimes the fall of the ignorant will temporarily hinder the rise of the hip hopper. Okay? So wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, in this case, the attuned hip hopper has already prepared for the inevitable fall of the ignorant through independence and a variety of divine performances and rises, while others are trapped under their own rubble. In all things, their own rubble. Why? Why are they in rubble? Because they didn't have a strong foundation. And when it got shaky, the house crumbled. The foundation wasn't strong enough. The place crumbled down on top of them and left them in rubble. But our integrity has us standing tall, has us standing strong as we continue to rise. The integrity of the tree. In all things, perform patience. What? In all things, perform patience. Even with difficult people, be patient. No matter how ignorant or inconsiderate people may appear to be, always remember that ultimately everyone is growing, learning, and developing according to their own level of consciousness. And if they are not, then they will not be around you much longer. Be patient. Some people will simply not see it your way. Be patient. You and they are always growing. Eventually, everyone sees the truth. However, everyone grows at their own pace. What is obvious to you today may not be so obvious to others. But if you stand in truth and in righteous humility, they shall eventually see what you see. Be patient. Everyone arrives at the truth eventually. Finally, we must continue the practice. And yeah, everyone arrives at the truth eventually, and be mindful. Some people, that truth is going to be right when they're dying. And then they're going to arrive at the truth and be like, oh, now that's not us. See the truth now. Be the truth now, my nobility. Paragraph 6, finally, we must continue the practice of being patient with ourselves. Let us remain committed to our principles, performances, and disciplines. But let us not be too anxious to receive spiritual insight and power. All shall come in time. For we have seen, and see, if you notice, this is a practice, a performance of patience while we're building this integrity. This is 4 weeks of patience, 4 weeks of meditating every day, 4 weeks of meditating for 4 weeks on 4 specific things in our lives. You feel me? This is a divine performance, a performance of patience. Let us not be too anxious to receive spiritual insight and power. All shall come in time. When you build the foundation, it takes time. There's no instant results here. These results are made. This is where the performance of discipline comes in, by the way. But these results are by really paying attention to this, really having some integrity with one's attention and intention and intuition even, which we'll get into in week 4. But this is that foundational piece. Why? Paragraph 7, for we have seen for over 40 years that it does not matter how much meditation one does or how virtuous one may live, spiritual insight and power happen on their own in their own time. You simply must continue your practice until you are granted the results that you desire. Be patient and learn the art of waiting. See that right there? You simply must continue your practice until you are granted the results that you desire. That practice, that day in and day out. It's not the meditation, it's the practice that you're ready when God speaks to you. You're ready to receive that. You're ready to hear. Why? Because you're training yourself to learn and to listen. This is spiritual training. The spiritual life is not the material life. It moves within its own time. When you are being delayed for some trivial reason, do not get upset or worried. Simply go with the flow. Go with the flow because your very steps are counted and guided by spiritual forces. Be patient. Be willing to wait. You're guided by spiritual forces. We are guided by spiritual forces. Practice performing patience while waiting in line. Practice patience with difficult people. Practice patience with your own spiritual development, with your career, with your children, with your parents. In all areas of life, learn how to apply the virtuous performance of patience. Many disasters have been avoided, and many have come to see the light by the correct use of patience. We are the light. I am the light. You are the light. We are the light of our world. That's the wholeness. That's the oneness. That's the integrity. The patience builds the strong foundation, foundational integrity. You feel me? As the philosopher Carlyle once said, every noble work is at first impossible. Perform patience. Hippopia is a noble work. You know, I feel this message from the Minista is a noble work. The gospel of hip hop is a noble work. This message from the Minista is a noble work. That's why I say my nobility. We're building something here. We're building a strong foundation, and it takes patience. This is why when I'm saying meditate for 18 minutes a day, it's the meditation is part of it, but it's the performance, it's the discipline, it's the spiritual training that starts boom, boom, boom every day, setting a baseline. So that when God moves and God's Spirit says, now is the time for you to learn this lesson, we're able to receive more of that lesson. Like our physical body being in shape, so God can come and bring us some spontaneous surprise, some spontaneous adventure that we're able to participate in because we're in shape. Our mind is ready, our body's ready, we're able to go on some kind of adventure. Or some kind of disaster hits, okay? Some kind of disaster hits, but we're already ready for it. Because we've been prepared, spiritual training, we prepared ourselves. We've built our house upon a solid foundation. And remember, the solid foundation also includes flexibility. This is the divine performance. And when we perform patience as a code, patience is a code, it's a flexible code. When we're patient with our environment, when we're patient with ourselves, when we're patient with others, that's water, that's that fluidity. And we're talking about turning the light around too earlier, bringing within us that patience, that governor. You know, I call patience the governor, but we could call patience the mayor of the inner city, the hero of the inner city, the God of the inner city, the Lord of the inner city. When patience is part of that code, then we can transform our inner city streets. We can transform ourselves. And remember, everything that happens within begins reflecting in our outer environment. This is physics. It's beyond metaphysics. It's actual. It's the physics of the metaphysics. The metaphysics is going on in here in the wave reality and the thought wave and how we build our inner city, how we build our inner environment, how we build ourselves internally. That's the meta, that's the beyond, that's the invisible. But then it translates into the physical, the physics of the physical world. Metaphysics. Never forget the physics of metaphysics. Too many metaphysicians get stuck in the meta, all the time in the meta, And it's reflected now that they're trying to make a metaverse because too many metaphysicians have been stuck in the meta for so long, they forgot the physics of creation. Like there's actual physics of this that's every bit as miraculous, every bit as holy, every bit as spiritual. So bring this hip hop, this holistic approach, this intelligent movement to our inner and outer environment. It's all one, it's the same thing. Particles and waves, whatever we want to call it. We wave, we move, we're water codes. Yo. And we start this, let's start with a warm heart all the time. Let's start with a warm heart. You know what? Let's put that at the meditation. We didn't say this last week, but every time before you meditate, start with a warm heart. When you get up in the morning, start with a warm heart. You know, start with that warm heart before you do anything. The yoga practice, the jogging, the running, the meditation, start with that warm heart. That's love. That's God's love right there, the warm heart. And this week, what was it going to be this week? Last week we had a word or a phrase. This week we're going to meditate 18 minutes for 7 days and write this down, okay? Missy, can you hold on a second? Thank you. Meditate for 18 minutes for the next 7 days on a self-empowerment goal. A self-empowerment goal. That could be peace, patience, body health. There could be something, but be specific with it, but set a self-empowerment goal for integrity. The self-empowerment, there's power in integrity. Set a self-empowerment goal this week. I'm going to, and that goal could include push-ups, drinking more water, but an empowerment goal like in the mind. Make an empowerment affirmation. There are not two powers, there's only one power, God. That's a great empowerment affirmation. If you go for self-empowerment all week, and I got that one from Florence Scovel Shinn in the book The Game of Life and How to Play It. She's got that affirmation. There are not two powers, there is one power, God. That's self-empowerment because we realize that there aren't two powers, good versus evil. There's only good. There's only God. And then there's inverted, distorted reality that appears as evil, but ultimately the only thing that exists is God. Truth, freedom, love. And we're moving through an illusion, the illusion of these other things that we call evil. We're moving through the illusion of evil. But an illusion isn't real. They may be powerful, but they're not real. And evil is an illusion. In God we trust, as the teacher said in the Sneak Attack album. All right, my nobility, there it is. This week of Foundational Integrity, Part 2. Part 1 last week was Attention Pays. So we paid attention to an empowering word or something. And this week it's self-empowerment again. But this week, get specific with the self-empowerment. Come up with an affirmation that's empowering. Come up with, just read something that empowers you. You feel empowered every time you read it. Just a paragraph or a word, self-empowerment. Meditate on that for 18 minutes a day for the next 7 days. You can go longer too. 18 minutes is just the beginning. It's for beginners. 9 minutes is for baby step beginners. 18 minutes is for adolescent beginners. 30 minutes, 40 minutes is for advanced. 2-3 hours, well, that's up to you. I fluctuate between 20 minutes to 40 minutes in meditation. I don't do, every once in a while though, like God will say, listen, it's time to meditate, Zin, and I'll go sit for 2.5 hours in meditation. But I don't have that as a rigidity. I have my normal meditative practice as part of my discipline, just to set my intention for the day, to speak to the intelligence of our day, as we talk about in the seventh sense, speaking to the intelligence of our day. That's something you might want to read. Or the seventh sense, speaking to the intelligence of our day. That's the 18 minutes, the 20, 40 minutes, in the morning that you sit and you set your intention for the day. But other times, like I said, God will come and just give me a deep, long meditation. Just I had to just like turn off the phone and the computer just a couple nights ago, and I meditated in my room for like 4.5 hours. I didn't just sit there like this for 4.5 hours, but I just put on a tone. I put on some meditative, like tonal music in the background. I did some yoga. I just didn't want to look at a screen for like, I wanted to give myself like a long break from looking at a screen. I was listening to music, but I didn't want to hear any digital. I didn't want to be looking at anything. And so what I did was I just did that. Then I meditated for a couple hours. I opened up a book, The Secret of the Golden Flower, and looked at a book, because it's very comforting to the eyes to look at paper, to look at a book on paper. And it had the feeling in your hands of paper, the organic nature of paper, the feeling of the written word like that, the smells of the book. And then I would just meditate to that. And it was wonderful, it reset me and got me ready, because I was just like, whoa, there's a message wanting to come through. And it was an interesting message that came through too, because God wasn't like, yo, I got to prepare you for something. Because God's like, yo, let's just find some peace. You've been through a lot recently. I just want you to find some peace and just turn off the outer environment and tune into the inner environment. I lit some candles and had some, burnt some, I've been burning cedar, burned some earlier tonight. Been burning cedar, some fresh cedar I got, let it dry out, and just burning the cedar and just, going into that meditative zone and giving oneself that time alone with God is time alone with self, that the privacy with God, privacy is a requirement of God. We take that private time with our Creator. So my nobility, as you go forward this week in health, in love, in awareness and wealth, in peace and prosperity, this is foundational integrity. And this is the integrity code. Find out your code. What is the integrity? What is the code? What is your code that taps you in? What is your code, your unique signature that taps you in to the wholeness and to the oneness that is already you? You may have forgotten, you may not be aware, but tune into that oneness, tune into that wholeness. What is your code? Forward this week in your code, and peace and prosperity is the code for us all, right? Peace and prosperity, and there it is. Hey!